Hail and well met, everybody. Welcome to Geek, Thyself, a show by nerds, for nerds,
who love geeking out over random facts and esoteric trivia. My name is Heather.
I'm Russell.
And we'll be your hosts for this journey through the wondrous land of information. Okay, hi everyone, and welcome back to Geek Thyself.
Hey guys, well, we're done with the spooks now.
Yeah, sadly, October is over. I love Halloween and I love October, but it has to end at some point.
All good things have to end.
This is true.
But it's fine. Because we've got other things to look forward to, other holidays to look forward to, you know, like Guy Fawkes Day, which just happened.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, we celebrate Guy Fawkes Day, which is what kind of prompted this week's topic. Because obviously we've just talked a lot about Halloween, which is a holiday all the way around the world, and then Guy Fawkes Day, which is a holiday about stopping a plot to kill the king, which is a good thing, I guess. But now we're going to talk about other holidays. No, not a good thing, I guess. I don't know why I said it like that. I mean, yes, it's a good thing that people, and some people didn't get killed. I don't know why I said it like that, but now I've got to feel like I've got to correct myself.
No worries, but
because of that, we're going to talk about other holidays that are from around the world, which are celebrated, like, perhaps not in all the countries, or more cultural ones, the ones that we're aware of. Obviously, we can't represent all of them, so if we miss them, feel free to tell us afterwards. Like, we'll talk about those, that'd be fun. But yeah, so basically Guy Fawkes gave us the idea of that, because I don't believe anywhere else celebrates Bonfire Night. I don't think it's a thing anywhere else.
As far as I know, it's just a British holiday. Like, the only reason I know it exists is because my dad's British, and because I've seen V for Vendetta.
Yeah, I think everyone's seen V for Vendetta at this point, but it's a great movie.
It is, yeah. So that did prompt us, though, to get thinking about the fact that there are certain holidays that get celebrated in some countries and not in others. And obviously, most countries have some kind of Independence Day.
Yeah, that's something we basically did some looking up on most of them, and then we came across a full list of Independence Days. Australia's is called Australia Day, which just makes me chuckle. Yours is obviously the 4th of July, 1776. I don't know who you were independent from. I can't remember that.
Oh, yeah, I know. Some island country, I guess.
Yeah, they were an empire at the time.
Yeah, fine.
Don't know about them. I know that the UK doesn't have an Independence Day because we were never needed to be independent.
Well, that's because before you became a country on your own, you'd been conquered by, like, all the invading hordes from various places in the north.
That's true. And then we let you go. Okay. Obviously, we both know that the UK was in charge of America. Oh boy! And then that was just at one point. It's about 200 and something years ago. Alright, so yeah, most countries have an Independence Day. Like Canada has Canada Day, Australia has Australia Day. Most of them are just called Independence Day, but some have specific titles like that. But yeah.
And there are some countries that don't. Places like England, obviously, that was never ruled by another country, and therefore...
there's always our monarchy.
Yeah. Well, after he became England, was never ruled by another country.
Yes,
and then, places like Japan that also, they were kind of beaten in a battle in World War II, but they were never fully conquered and completely taken over, so they don't really have an Independence Day.
No, they were just always there. So yeah, those are sort of some little examples. We obviously know more about our own countries, like we said. Another couple of ones that are from the UK, which are fairly small, is this one for the 26th of December called Boxing Day. And no, it's not about people fighting over the Christmas presents that they got the day before. It was actually started as a tradition for the postmans, actually. From the Oxford English Dictionary in the 1830s, it's defined as the first weekday after Christmas Day, observed as a holiday on which postmen, errand boys, and servants of various kinds expect to receive a Christmas box. in the Christmas box. It's normally something given at Christmas, where it's a present or a gratuity. Yeah. So basically, it's basically just honouring the sort of people who help you through all the year, which, like you say, your errand boy is for a lot of like businesses, like, and that kind of thing. Couriers, postmen, the people who help you all year round with your post, they get something back on that day. I don't believe it's anything that is done much anymore, but we still do have it, and normally it's just about Boxing Day sales now.
Yeah, that's true. I feel like the equivalent nowadays would kind of be like when your boss gives you a holiday bonus.
That's kind of how it worked, yeah. Basically, but it's now it's more for just sort of everyone. It used to be for the people who served you through the year in certain ways. You gave back to them.
Right.
I don't know why that they weren't just given back to on Christmas Day, when that's the day for, loving and supporting and all that sort of stuff. I don't know.
The only thing I could think of would be that technically on those days you would be expected to be with your family, celebrating, or possibly going to church and then with family celebrating, depending on where we're talking about. So maybe because they would have been given the day off to go spend time with their families, so then when they came back to work the first work day, they were given their gifts.
I suppose that kind of works, yeah.
That's the only thing I can think of.
It did also note that it is considered a holiday, but I suppose that's not a holiday for people if they have that agreement. But basically, the term for Boxing Day is from the UK mainly, but it's also in a lot of the places that were in the British Empire, which is something we're told. In the sort of article I'm looking at, it lists that the UK, Canada, Australia, Trinidad, Tobago, and New Zealand, Boxing Day is now basically just a shopping holiday, much like Black Friday for Americans. Boxing Day sales are common, and shops often allow dramatic price reductions. For many merchants, Boxing Day has become the day of the year with the greatest revenue. I didn't know that. In 2009, it was estimated that 12 million shoppers appeared at the sales. Why are 12 million people going out on Boxing Day? I just don't get it. But I'm not really much of a go out and shop kind of person, so...
No, we have the internet.
Yeah, we do. So yeah, basically just a holiday for United Kingdom. I nearly said United States. And what used to be the British Empire. And now is more just old countries we used to have. And I guess the Commonwealth? Maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean, I grew up hearing about Boxing Day, but my dad's, again, British, and also perhaps partly because Boxing Day was a holiday that's celebrated over there, he's just always been nice to people who do things like that. Like, my parents are the people who have a cooler sitting on their front porch that says, delivery people and post office, take something from here if you want it, and it's got, like, drinks in it.
Oh. See, that's really cool. I don't know whether you do that in the UK. The issue with the UK is offering drinks out would be a great idea if it wasn't always just raining and terrible weather. Like, there's no real reason normally to give out drinks. Although I suppose during heat waves it's a good idea, but generally we just have a lot of weather. So it's not like people.
I'm in California where it gets hot, so drinks are great.
Yeah, so I'm sure for Californians it's an amazing thing, and I bet they love it. Like, that's very kind. But for the UK, we just don't really get that kind of level of heat very often. I'm sure there are some people in the UK who would do it though. I don't believe I've ever done it or we've ever done it, but maybe we should. That might be fun.
Yeah, I know what you mean about it not getting as hot in the UK, though. When I visited family over there back in college, they complained I brought the heat with me, and it was like 60. And I'm like, this is not hot.
No, this is great weather. No, I went over, obviously, earlier this year, and I was in California for like a week. Mm-hmm. My God, I was dying. Like... I was out for like an hour, and I'd be like, I need to go home. I need to go inside. I'm going to die. I'm going to burn up.
And that was in April. Can you imagine what it's like in the middle of summer?
No, I don't want to. Give me my rain back. I like the rain. The rain's comforting.
You'd probably like our winters.
Maybe. So yeah, on that very small tangent. It's been a while since I've had a tangent. It felt good. It felt good.
It was fun.
We've also got another holiday in the UK, which is called May Day. I don't know, again, I really wish I knew more about these holidays, but it's a public holiday on May the 1st, which is why it's called May Day. Okay, I'm just looking at this article and it says the next one, ironically, is on the 1st of May 2020. I don't feel like people need to be told about that one, but it's fine. May Day was chosen as International Workers' Day for socialists and communists in the second international to commemorate the Haymarket affair in Chicago, apparently. So apparently it's International Workers' Day for Chicago. That's cool.
Yeah, well, I do know what little I do know about May Day, and it's very little, don't get me wrong. Like, I've heard of the holiday, but May Day is really close to Beltane, which is a Wiccan pagan holiday celebrating, like, fertility and the coming of spring and stuff like that. And
from what I'm sort of reading, it started with Aphrodite, which would make sense for the whole love, fertility, and that kind of thing. And yet, there's a lot of things about flowers and dancing and general sort of fun and celebration.
Yeah, my understanding is that Beltane traditionally is May 5th, but a lot of the celebrations get moved to May 1st to coincide with May Day, since it's such a... Just so it's all at the same time.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, but so yeah, those are like the two like main ones I know about. I will have a brief look for any other ones.
Yeah, and just to be clear to everyone who's listening, we are fully aware that there's, hundreds, if not thousands, probably thousands, honestly, with all the countries that are out there, of holidays that are, specific to different religions or different countries and that might not be celebrated all over the world, but we're trying to give you information that's accurate and that we actually know something about. So there's just no way for us to cover every single one, like is the case with so many topics.
Yeah, I mean, like, obviously we celebrate Easter and Good Friday and Easter Monday, but that's not specific to us.
Right. So we're trying to avoid we're not planning to discuss, I should say, a lot of the holidays that are more religious based as opposed to ones that are just sort of country specific based. That's more what we're going for, because that's what we thought was interesting. Some of these obviously spread, like Halloween we talked about is celebrated in a lot of different countries. Easter is celebrated in pretty much any country that has Christian residents. Same with things like Christmas, but what'd you find?
Yes, I've just remembered the other one that's in May, and that's VE Day.
VE Day? Oh, Victory in Europe Day.
In Europe Day, yes. Yeah. Which coincides, obviously, with the end of World War II, and it's on the 8th of May, 1945. Basically, will be celebrated everywhere through Europe, and represents just us winning against Germany and... I guess Japan,
specifically the Nazis.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
The
country of Germany. Yeah, the country of Germany in Nazi rule at the time.
Yes.
There we go. Yes.
Yeah. Let's be clear. No German hate. Just Nazis specifically.
Yeah. No. Specifically, the Nazis who were in charge. Yes.
Yeah, and it's called, if I'm remembering right, it's called VE Day because it specifically is victory in Europe because the victory in Asia happened later.
Yes, I believe that went on for just a little longer. I'm not sure how much. Yeah, because then the actual end of the war, I believe, is the 11th of November. I'm pretty sure that's.
I know that's Veterans Day. I don't remember if that's the actual day. Let me check.
Remembrance Day. It's commemorates the armistice signed between the Allies and Germany. It could be for World War One. Let's have a look. Yes, World War One in 1919. Sorry.
Okay, so you're right. It is one of the victories, but no. So Victory in Japan Day, which is also sometimes referred to as VJ Day, is actually August 14th, 1945. Well, actually,
okay,
so it
June,
gets celebrated on the 14th and 15th, depending on where you're at.
That's really interesting. So it's a few months later, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't remember which one the November one was for, but apparently it's for World War One, which is great too. Let's not keep warring. Okay. That's mainly most of the UK ones. We don't really have too many like specifically ones for us. Of course, we've got the Saints' Days, but they're celebrated wherever Christianity and everywhere else happens. So, those are the main sort of ones that we have that maybe other countries don't, which is actually good because we're about halfway through. So, we've covered my half, and now we can go into our lovely little ad roll break thing, and then we'll cover American and some small Japanese ones, which Heather knows a bit more about than I do.
Yeah, they're not necessarily small celebrations, but they are, I think, lesser known unless you're part of a Japanese community.
Oh yeah, I didn't mean like small as in that way. I meant small as in like your knowledge of them
information.
is.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, not as in like small holidays. Just that I don't know anything about them, and you know a little bit. So that's all. All right, so yeah, we'll see you after the break, guys. Bye.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the mid-roll.
Hey guys, we're doing the thing again.
All right, so like always, we want to talk about our amazing sponsors. The first one up is World Anvil. It's an amazing, robust world building and campaign management software website. It's worldanvil.com. I honestly can't talk about them enough. You can create worlds, you can flesh out characters, you can create links between the different worlds and characters and places and all sorts of things. It's amazing. And it's free to sign up. You do have to pay if you want some of their additional features, which are worth the money, but you can sign up for free and get started at worldanvil.com.
Absolutely. Also, supported by the whole of the Nerdsmith network is Die Hard Dice. Yes. Die Hard Dice have beautiful, amazing metal and polymer dice. The metal dice they design themselves, their own molds, and they colour test everything in their house. Their colours are gorgeous. They put out dice so frequently with their Spellbinder series and their dual colour line, and their new polymer molds. I think that's what it's called. I don't know dice. I just like rolling them, but they're beautiful colours. They have amazing accessories like with their Scroll of Rolling, which lets you take away like 2 dice sets and roll just wherever you need to. They're amazing. They have super good shipping for the US, as well as discounted shipping for everywhere else, which is great for me because I'm not in the US. If you do find anything that you like on their website, you can use the code Geek Thyself to get 15%. That's 15 off your first or next order. So yeah, if you want to roll with the best, you can just go to dieharddice.com.
Yep, and then a new topic for this week's mid-roll. So this is the second week of Nerdsgiving, which is the first 2 weeks of November every year. And this year we're supporting Heifer International. It's a wonderful organization that helps people in different countries, especially third world countries, to sort of establish themselves with a small business. They provide them with livestock animals, and they teach them how to raise them and how to care for them, and then how to turn that livestock animal into a business that will keep them and their family fed and taken care of for years to come. So it ranges from things like giving them chickens and teaching them how to raise the chickens so that they can sell the eggs and then eventually sell the chickens themselves. It also, things like cows, and they'll teach them how to make cheese or how to use the milk and sell the milk and things like that. So
yeah, it's a great way of providing both business opportunities for people, and in that kind of case you've learned how to produce food for yourself if you need to do that as well. It's great. Are we doing additional streams for this? I believe
we are doing Nerdsgiving one-shot events. They're all going to be animal themed.
Yes, they are.
And well, the ones that have already been out have been animal themed, and the ones that are coming are more animal themes. We're very excited.
Yeah. People who can't see, your face is just lit up so much just at the mention of animal themed one shots. It's great.
Yes, I'm excited. I like animals. Who would have known?
Yeah, who could have guessed?
So definitely you should come check out the one-shots at twitch.tv/nerdsmith, You can also go to nerdsmith.org to find out more information about Nerdsgiving and how you can donate to help Heifer International in their mission to support people around the world and give them ways to support themselves and their families.
But with all that said, feel free to check that out, and then we'll get back into this week's episode of Holidays.
So, back to more holidays that are not celebrated everywhere. So, we mentioned earlier, obviously, that a lot of countries have an Independence Day. I feel like the United States Independence Day celebration is somewhat iconic.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I feel like everybody knows about the 4th of July.
Yeah,
because
literally everyone celebrates it.
Well, in your country.
Yeah.
We call it Traitors' Day, but it's fine.
I mean, technically, from your perspective, that's not an inaccurate statement.
So, yeah, no. We just call it Nothing Day.
It's just a day for you.
Yeah, it's just another day.
Yeah, so but for anyone in the United States, the 4th of July is a pretty big deal. It's, this big celebration, we won against all odds kind of business. And then, of course, they've made movies like Independence Day that are literally, sci-fi action movies on that day for a reason.
And then there are West End plays about it, generally. If anybody has ever heard of Hamilton.
Oh, yeah, there's that too.
Yeah, there's that too.
Yeah, so there's a lot of talk about it. So that's all the mentioning of it I'm going to do, though, because beyond that, it's really just another Independence Day like so many countries have.
You just do it bigger.
Yeah, we just do it bigger. But to be fair, our country is also bigger than a lot of countries.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely.
So that may be part of it.
Okay. The other one that's quite kind of interesting, which only you in Canada really do, I think, is Thanksgiving. Mm-hmm. But you don't do it at the same time, for some reason.
No, theirs is a different time. I don't remember when theirs is.
I know that theirs is earlier than yours. Yeah. That's all I know, basically.
Yeah, Thanksgiving here in the U.S. is celebrated the last Thursday of November. And it's supposed to celebrate the, basically peace between Native Americans and Pilgrims when the Pilgrims first came over here and settled in the Plymouth Rock area. Last year, I actually did an entire episode in November all about the real history of Thanksgiving. And it's not quite as peaceful. It's not quite as cut and dry as a lot of, the sugary sweet versions it's been Disneyfied as people say, for the masses. But in reality, there's a lot of history behind the interactions of the Native Americans and the incoming settlers, and the incoming settlers weren't all Puritans the way it's usually portrayed. Quite a few of them weren't Puritans. They were just other people looking to move somewhere and try starting a new life.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of bits and pieces, but basically Thanksgiving is celebrated last Thursday of November, and it's a day to give thanks and really celebrate and appreciate the people that are important to you and what you've been given in life and that sort of thing. Traditionally, Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to say that it's very much about that, and basically the Thanksgiving in Canada is very much the same. The only main difference is it's celebrated on the first Monday of October. And it's to celebrate the harvest and the blessings for the past year. And basically just the bounty of food. Basically when everyone was still farming and harvesting for their own food before we became just going to the shops. But it's always good that all the food is still being made, even if it's not by everyone, because we all still need to eat.
This is a very true statement. But yeah, that's Thanksgiving, and there's more to it. And if you wanted to learn the actual history of the United States Thanksgiving, you could go listen to that episode that I did last year. But other than that, there's not that many United States specific holidays that I feel don't get celebrated in other countries, partly because the United States is such a big amalgamation of just tons and tons and tons of different immigrants from different countries all over the world, that if there's a holiday that people decided is fun, we've just kind of taken it. Like, that's how Halloween came to be. Halloween came over with people from Ireland and Scotland and then mutated into the Halloween that we know now. You know, we have St. Patrick's Day from the Irish immigrants. We have, what else do we a lot of people celebrate Cinco de Mayo because of the Mexican immigrants. Yeah. You know, there's things like that.
You renamed your Veterans Day, or you renamed the Armistice Day for Veterans Day. Yeah. Because that was originally not an American holiday, but you have that now as a day in your in your holidays, which is still fine. The only ones that I can really probably think of that will be specifically yours are your President's holidays and your All President's Day. Like, yeah, we've got a couple of the like big presidents. We have days where we celebrate their birthday, like Washington's birthday, and I just thought of another one. We have Washington's birthday, and I think Lincoln's birthday is the other one. Really, they get celebrated sometimes. It makes sense for Washington because of him being the first. Yeah. I know that Lincoln is really big for some reason. I believe he's the one who ended slavery. No, I'm not trying to be joking about this, but I believe he's the one. It's not your
history, so it makes sense that you don't know as much about it.
No, I just know that for some reason he's the 13th president, and that he's as revered as potentially Washington is, and I don't know why the rest aren't.
Yeah, it is the slavery thing. He was the one who, I mean, it depends on, I think, where you're located. I think there's a lot of people who really liked Lincoln, and then there's some people that, you know, don't care for him as much. If they've got, like, deep-seated Southern pride and still like to fly the Confederate flag, for example, they may not be as big a fan of Lincoln. But basically, he started the war by signing the Emancipation Proclamation and stating that slaves should be free.
Sure. Okay, makes sense. It's a good thing.
I think I'm remembering those in the right order.
Okay.
I would have to double check. It has been a very long time since I took U.S. history.
Okay. I just knew that...
that's why he's, popular.
Yeah, I knew that those two specific presidents were popular. Washington, just because he won the Civil War and was the first president. So he set up a lot of those sort of traditions, so it makes sense. But I just wasn't really sure for Lincoln. And then you have your All President's Day, which is for all the rest of them. Yeah.
Yes. And then that reminded me, actually, we also have Martin Luther King Day.
Oh, yeah. How did I forget about that one? Oh, boy. Okay.
So the U.S. has a lot of holidays that get celebrated, and they don't even necessarily get celebrated in every single state, which is the craziest part, because that just makes life more confusing. But we have certain holidays that get celebrated that are specific to people who've done something in the United States. Like Martin Luther King Jr., we have Martin Luther King Day, and it's in February. I can't remember exactly which day it is. I think it kind of varies, and it's one of the Mondays or Fridays every month. But
and he did a lot to, while slavery was technically illegal, there was still a lot of racism.
The civil rights issues.
Yeah. So he did a lot to help move that along. Didn't get rid of it, and I don't think he'll ever get rid of it, unfortunately, which makes me sad.
Maybe eventually, but not anytime soon.
I hope so.
Me too.
I just want everyone to get along, because we're all the same. Yeah.
Yeah. Fun little tangent. My dad actually was a college student in Georgia at Emory University when everything was happening, and when Martin Luther King Jr. was shot and assassinated. And he volunteered, and he picked up people that were coming in for the funeral at the airport and then drove them back and forth to hotels and stuff. Yeah. So he picked up people and was driving them around. And my dad is Caucasian. He's white from England. But he was picking up people and driving them to various locations around the city so that people would be able to attend the funeral.
Well, that's a really great thing that he's done, and that's really, really great. Like, I just hope no one who he was taking was worried that he was doing it, like, to spend that time to harass those sort of people, because, well, I assume your father wasn't anything like that. I can see some people doing it just to do that, and that makes me sad.
Oh, yeah. No, which is unfortunate. I'm sure there were some, but no, I think I'd have to double check with him. I believe he volunteered with a specific group, and so they had something indicating that they were from that group to make sure people weren't getting harassed, especially given the circumstances.
Yeah, absolutely, because obviously it was a big race issue, and suddenly they're being driven around by a Caucasian gentleman who...
Yeah.
And it's not even about that, it's just about the fact of why Martin Luther King was shot and assassinated. It's just such a tense situation, and that's all they need when they're just trying to pay respects to somebody who's done so much for them.
Yeah.
That's a really cool thing. That just makes me happy. Like, people being there for people. Yeah, that's all I want.
Yes. And then another U.S. holiday that is very person-specific and very much just a U.S. holiday is Cesar Chavez Day.
I don't know this one. I've never heard of this one.
Now, this one I think might be more of a West Coast holiday. I know it gets celebrated here in California. I don't know if it gets celebrated across the country. But Cesar Chavez was a migrant worker. For anyone who doesn't know, a migrant worker is a term that's used to refer to the field workers on different farms around California and other states. They are quite often, though not always, here without work visas. Underpaid also, yes, for sure. And they work grueling hours picking the fruits and vegetables and everything in the fields. And they weren't unionized in any way.
It's as close to slave labor as you can imagine, basically.
Yes, and he was a farm worker, and he started organizing other farm workers to have basically a little bit of a union so that they could at least get some rights. Even, I mean, obviously the people that are from the U.S. and are working on these farms, to have them get more rights, but then also just trying to improve the overall rights of all the farm workers. So he gets celebrated a lot here in California. We have, like in San Jose, where I'm from, there's a Cesar Chavez Park. Another one that I just thought of also, U.S. apparently has a lot of random holidays. We have one that is very contentious, though, that I just thought of, which is very U.S. specific, and that's Columbus Day.
This recently just passed.
Yes, or as I prefer to think of it, Indigenous Peoples Day.
Yes, I remember you called it this.
Yes, I prefer to think of it as Indigenous Peoples Day. For various reasons, not the least of which is that Columbus didn't actually discover America by any means.
No. There were people here.
Beyond the fact that he didn't discover it because there were already people here, he didn't even land on the United States proper. He was on an island down in like the West Indies. And on top of that, he also still is not the first European to have made it over here, because if you listen to my episode on Vikings in North America, they were here first. So he did not discover North America. For all of these reasons and so many more having to do with the mistreatment that happened to the Native American peoples and indigenous peoples after his men got here, I feel like it should be Indigenous Peoples Day.
I can totally see that, and I would agree.
Yes, but that also gets celebrated here.
Yeah, not that we're trying to be too political or on this family-friendly podcast, but I just want people to all be appropriated. Everyone should be happy and be able to do what they like. Mm-hmm. That's basically my stance on everything.
Well, the thing is, though, like, beyond politics, the simple, straight historical facts are that he wasn't here first, he didn't land on America proper, and he wasn't the first European to come over here and discover it. There are Viking settlements that are older than when he landed here. So, for all of those reasons, Columbus Day is not accurate, and it should be Indigenous Peoples Day, in my opinion. At the moment, that's all the ones I can think of. There might be more. I'm sure there's more, but those are the only ones I can think of for America specifically.
That's fair. I feel like for a good wrap-up, we should probably talk about a little bit of those sort of the Japanese cultures ones that you're a little bit familiar with, and that's a good place to wrap up, I think.
Okay.
Do you agree?
I agree. I think I'll actually touch really quickly one that I'm familiar with that is celebrated here in the U.S. but is not a U.S. holiday technically, is the Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead, which is a Mexican holiday, but because there are so many Mexican Americans in California and Arizona and New Mexico and everything, in my area of the U.S., it is something that gets celebrated here as well. And it's basically a remembrance day for your family and your loved ones who've passed on. So it's the Day of the Dead. You celebrate your loved ones, your family members who have passed on and gone on to the other life. There's a lot of various traditions that are really beautiful and colorful, and the candy skulls, like the Mexican skull patterns and things that you see on designs and stuff sometimes. Things like that.
Like with the floral designs on the painted on the skull. Yeah, I'm familiar with it, yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's all of those types of decorations and things like that. It's really beautiful. And it's a very interesting and I think very sweet holiday because you're celebrating the loved ones that you miss that have passed on.
I think that's beautiful, yeah.
And then in terms of Japanese holidays, so I'm not going to lie, Japan has a lot of random holidays. And there are holidays...
That's right. And you're not totally familiar with all of them because... have you ever lived in Japan? I'm not sure. I've never asked.
No, I've never lived in Japan. I've never actually been to Japan. I would like to someday. It's on my bucket list. But the thing about Japan is that because it was so insular, it was so on its own for so long, it developed a lot of its own different traditions and holidays.
And culture and mindsets
culture.
And that kind of thing.
And it has been exported along with its people to other countries. But it's really only celebrated if you're in some sort of Japanese community. So like over here in the U.S., in California specifically, there's a lot of different Japanese American communities. And one of the holidays that is celebrated here as well as in Japan is Obon. The Obon festival, it's also sometimes referred to as the Lantern Festival. It usually happens, sometime around mid to late July to August. It depends a little bit on your area. And like here in California, a lot of the Buddhist churches and Japanese American communities throughout the state will stagger when their Obon festival is held, so that hypothetically someone could go to every single one, or at least most of them. So like if you go to the Bay Area here near San Francisco won't have their Obon festival on the same day as San Jose, won't do it on the same day as Mountain View. Like they stagger them so that people in the Bay Area could technically go to every single one. And for anyone who's ever seen the second Karate Kid movie, the one where he goes to Japan and they're dancing in that castle.
Yeah.
That festival is the Obondori. It's the Obon festival, where they're dancing with the fans and the lanterns, and they light the lanterns and float them.
Down the river.
A lot of places don't use lanterns on a river because they don't always have that as an option, and also because it litters. So a lot of places now we use lanterns up on lights. So like hanging lanterns instead. And there are some traditional dances that you do in a kimono or yukata and everything. And you are celebrating your loved ones who have passed on, and that's what the lights are supposed to represent to a certain degree. And
the inner person or soul or whatever you want to view it as, yeah.
Yeah. And depending on where you're from in Japan and what version of Buddhism you ascribe to, there may be slightly different traditions for your specific church or temple. So I'm not going to get into those because it's going to be different for a lot of different people. There's also these holidays I don't know as much about, but they're pretty straightforward in terms of what they're celebrating. There's a lot of holidays, like there's a Children's Day. That's self-explanatory. You celebrate children. There's a Boys' Day and a Girls' Day.
Okay.
So in addition to a Children's Day, there's a Boys' Day that's just about the boys, and there's a Girls' Day that's just about the girls.
Okay. Now my next question is there a non-binary day, but...
No, that would probably just be Children's Day. Would be the closest as things stand right now.
I just... that's just me. That's just how my mind works. It's like, everyone gets representation.
No, I know what you mean. So that there's that, and then there's like they literally have a day for pretty much everyone in the family. There's like a grandparents' day. There's there's other festivals besides the Obondori. That's the one I'm the most familiar with. Well, there's New Year's. There's the New Year's celebrations, of course, which are not specific to Japan, but some of the traditions are, like going to a temple and things like that. And those are the only ones I can think of right now. But there's others, and like I mentioned, Japan, because it was its own sort of separated section of the world for so long, there's a lot of different festivals and holidays, and there's a lot of also, because Japan is a series of islands, so sometimes an individual island or an individual area, if it's secluded enough, has its own festivals that it celebrates that doesn't get celebrated anywhere else. But
okay, one more quick question. I know Chinese New Year is its own thing, which is its own holiday. Do Japan follow the same calendar or not?
So yes and no. So China if you use the Chinese calendar, it's actually a lunar calendar, as opposed to the Gregorian calendar that we use, which is more of a solar-based calendar. If I'm remembering correctly, I'd have to double check. I did an episode on this, but it was a while ago. But the Gregorian calendar is the one that's got, January, February, March, the way we're used to them. And then that's what most of the world uses. And the Eastern calendar, the Chinese calendar, is all lunar-based, and so the months are not the same. There's usually 13 months in a year instead of 12.
Because it's the 28 days of the lunar calendar.
Uh-huh. And so the year is also a different length. And you end up with different endings. So because it's using the lunar cycle, you never end on what would be considered the same day of the Gregorian calendar. It varies year to year.
31st of December, which is why it happens in February generally, or January, and very occasionally March, you said, when we were talking about it earlier.
Yeah.
Okay.
And in Japan, it gets used for certain festival dates and things like that, depending on the festival and how it's being set up. But it more often than not, the regular, well, quote unquote regular, the Western calendar that uses the Gregorian setup with the months and, with January, February, and March, the way we expect them to be, that's more often what gets used on a day-to-day basis, especially since a large portion of the rest of the world already uses it, and they need to have it for business purposes and whatnot. So it just makes sense to do it that way. But in terms of holidays, it does still sometimes get set up based off of the lunar calendar.
Fair enough. Okay, well, that feels like a very good place to end, talking about some outside culture ones. If, like I said, we don't know all of them, and we couldn't cover them all even if we did. But feel free to tell us which ones that you know about, like for your area, your culture, whatever. We'll happily talk about them because we always like learning here. But apart from that, we will catch you all guys later. Have a good holiday, whatever's coming up next for you. And we'll talk to you soon.
Yep.
Bye,
and
guys.
Don't forget to join us for Nerds Giving.
Yes, don't forget. From the 1st to the 15th of November.
Yes.
We're already about halfway through, but come and join us for more.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bye.
Right. Bye. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Geek Thyself. Don't forget to check out all the other amazing content on the Nerdsmith Network. If you have any questions for either of us, you can get in contact with us on Twitter at geek_thyself.
You can also email us at geekthyself@nerdsmith.org. And please don't forget to go to iTunes and leave us a review, or also go anywhere you listen to your podcasts.
We'll be back next week with another informative and fun episode.
And until then, don't forget to geek thyself.